There are days when you wake up and it feels like the universe has signed a contract against you. The job rejection email lands in your inbox. The relationship you poured yourself into unravels overnight. The people you counted on aren't there when you need them the most. And you find yourself whispering into the silence, why me? Why does life always have to be this hard? If you've ever felt like the world was pushing you down, like life itself was against you, you are not alone. Every single one of us has sat in that dark corner wondering if maybe we were just destined for struggle, as if the universe had chosen favorites and somehow we didn't make the list. But here's the truth. Most of us avoid facing life isn't against you. Life is not punishing you, nor is it singling you out. What you're feeling in those moments of pain is not evidence of your unworthiness. It's evidence that you're alive, growing, and in the middle of becoming something stronger than you were yesterday. It doesn't feel like it in the moment. I know. It feels cruel, heavy, and unfair. But often the seasons of life that break us are the very seasons that build us. We live in a culture that tells us struggle is shameful, that if you're hurting, you're failing, that if things aren't perfect, you must be doing something wrong. But I want to challenge that story today. What if the very moments when you feel most broken are not signs of weakness, but invitations to trust? What if the times when life feels against you are actually the times it's working for you, reshaping you, preparing you, teaching you what comfort never could? Think about it. The times you grew the most, the times you discovered your deepest strength, your real courage, did they come when life was easy? Or did they come when everything felt like it was falling apart? We don't find resilience when the sun is shining. We find it when the storm hits. We don't discover courage when the road is smooth. We discover it when the path is rocky, when we're forced to keep walking even with trembling legs. And yet, in the middle of that storm, it's easy to forget. It's easy to believe the lie that says, this is happening because I'm not good enough, smart enough, worthy enough. It's easy to let shame whisper that you are the problem. But listen closely, you are not the problem. Struggle is not evidence of your failure. Struggle is evidence that you are still in the game. Life doesn't break you because you're weak. It breaks you open so that something deeper in you can rise. I'm not here to give you cliches or sugarcoat the pain. Life hurts. Sometimes it hurts so much it feels unbearable. But I am here to tell you this. You don't have to interpret your pain as proof that you're cursed or forgotten. Instead, you can begin to see it as the soil where something new is being planted. You can choose to trust, even when it doesn't make sense, that life is not against you. It's shaping you, equipping you, pushing you toward the version of yourself you cannot yet see. So if you are in that space right now, if you feel like everything is against you, I want you to hear me. You are not being punished, you are being prepared. The weight you carry today may just be the strength you need for tomorrow. And though you may not believe it yet, you are not walking through this for nothing. Life is still for you, even when it feels like it's against you. There is a kind of silence that follows heartbreak. A silence so heavy it feels like the air itself is pressing down on your chest. Maybe you've been there, the night after the person you loved walked away without explanation, the moment when the doctor delivered news that changed everything, the day you realized the future you imagined was slipping out of your hands. In those moments, life doesn't just feel hard, it feels personal. It feels like the world has pointed its finger directly at you and said, you don't get to have peace, you don't get to have joy. When life breaks you, it doesn't knock politely on the door and ask permission. It storms in. It throws your plans on the floor. It leaves you holding pieces you don't know how to put back together. And as you stare at the wreckage, shame begins its whisper. See, you're not strong enough. You're not lovable enough. You're not enough, period. This is the part no one likes to talk about. We celebrate resilience after the fact, but we rarely talk about the messy middle. The nights when you cry yourself to sleep, the mornings you can barely get out of bed, the days when you can't even fake a smile because your heart is so heavy. And yet, this is the most human part of our story. This is the part where vulnerability isn't a choice. It's all we have left. I want to pause here and tell you something important. If you're in that space right now, if you're sitting in the rubble of something that broke, there is nothing wrong with you. You are not weak for feeling the weight of your pain. You are not broken beyond repair. You are human. And to be human is to feel deeply, to ache when life cuts deep, to grieve what was lost. But here's what makes the struggle so confusing. Pain has a way of disguising itself as truth. When life knocks you down, the pain doesn't just hurt. it convinces you of lies. Lies like, this is all you'll ever know. Lies like, you'll never recover. Lies like, this is proof that life doesn't want good things for you. And in our exhaustion, we believe those lies. We surrender not just to the pain, but to the story it tells us about ourselves. I've seen it in myself, and I've seen it in countless others. When life breaks us, our first instinct is often to build walls. We numb ourselves so we don't feel as much. We shut people out so they can't hurt us again. We lower our expectations because disappointment feels safer than hope. But while those walls may protect us from pain in the short term, they also block us from love, joy, and connection, the very things we're starving for. Here's the paradox of struggle. The same moment that convinces us we're alone is often the moment that connects us most deeply to what it means to be alive. The heartbreak you carry, the failures that cut you open, the losses you thought you couldn't survive, they are not signs of weakness. They are proof that you dared to love, dared to try, dared to hope. And that courage, even when it led to pain, is the very thing that will carry you through. But I won't lie, when you're in the middle of it, none of this feels noble. It feels cruel. It feels like you're being punished. And that's why we need to talk about it. Because until we learn to name the struggle for what it is, we keep confusing it for rejection. We keep telling ourselves that life is against us, when in reality it's not rejection we're experiencing. It's redirection. It's the breaking open of one chapter so another can begin. So if you're walking through that valley right now, I want you to hear me. The struggle is not the end of your story. Yes, life may break you, but it breaks you open, not down. And even though you can't see it yet, there is something on the other side of this pain that only this moment could prepare you for. At some point in the middle of the struggle, a quiet question begins to rise. What if this isn't happening to me? But for me, it's not a question that comes easily. Most of the time it shows up in whispers, in the pauses between tears, in the exhausted silence after the fight is over. And if you're anything like me, your first response might be resistance. For me, how could this heartbreak, this disappointment, this loss possibly be for me? I get it. That question feels almost offensive when you're raw and hurting. But here's what I've learned. Perspective doesn't erase pain, but it does give it meaning. And meaning is what helps us keep walking when everything in us wants to collapse. Think of a seed buried in the dark soil. It might feel like the end, cut off from light, pressed down by dirt, suffocating in silence. But what looks like the end is actually the beginning. That dark, heavy place is exactly where transformation happens. Without being buried, the seed never becomes a tree. Without the darkness, there is no growth. What if our struggles work the same way? What if the moments that feel like burial are actually moments of planting? What if the darkness you're sitting in isn't life rejecting you, but preparing you to rise in ways you couldn't before? This is the shift in perspective that changes everything. Life is not against you. It's working for you. Even when it hurts. The job that didn't work out, it might be clearing the way for a calling you can't yet see. The relationship that ended, it might be making space for the love that will honor you instead of diminish you. The failure that shattered your confidence, it might be building the resilience you'll need to carry your biggest dreams. Now I know what you're thinking. That sounds nice, but I don't see it. I don't feel it. And that's okay. Trusting the process doesn't mean pretending you enjoy the pain. It doesn't mean putting on a fake smile and saying, everything happens for a reason, when your heart is still bleeding. No. Trusting the process is about holding space for both realities, acknowledging the hurt, and also daring to believe that something bigger is unfolding. It takes courage to reframe struggle as growth. It takes vulnerability to admit that we don't see the full picture yet, but we're willing to believe that the picture exists. This is where Brené's reminder echoes so loudly. Vulnerability is not weakness. It's the birthplace of strength, creativity, and resilience. When we shift our perspective, we're not erasing our pain. We're allowing it to teach us. Here's the truth. Storms don't just destroy. They also reveal. A storm will show you what's strong enough to stand and what was always too fragile to last. It strips away what doesn't serve you, so that what truly matters can remain. And while it feels brutal in the moment, it is also profoundly clarifying. I remember hearing someone say, life doesn't give you what you want. It gives you what you need to grow. I hated that sentence the first time I heard it. It felt unfair, almost cruel. But over time, I began to see its wisdom. The hardest seasons of my life didn't give me what I wanted, but they gave me what I needed: perspective, resilience, clarity, and a deeper compassion for others. And without those seasons, I would not be who I am today. So maybe the question is not, why is this happening to me? Maybe the real question is, what is this trying to teach me? That one shift from against me to for me doesn't erase the struggle, but it transforms the way we carry it. Suddenly, the weight doesn't feel like punishment. It feels like preparation. And when you begin to see life through that lens, everything changes. You start walking with less fear and more trust. You stop interpreting every setback as rejection and start seeing it as redirection. You stop fighting the process and begin leaning into it. That is the secret that so many of us avoid: the struggle that feels like it's breaking. You may actually be the very thing that's building you. Trusting life's process is not about pretending everything is fine. It's not about forcing yourself to smile through pain or denying the heartbreak you feel. Trust is not blind optimism. It's brave surrender. It's choosing to believe that even when you can't see the bigger picture, there is one. And that belief doesn't come from ignoring reality. It comes from having the courage to face it and still choose hope. When you're in the middle of a struggle, trusting the process can feel impossible. You want answers. You want control. You want certainty. And when life refuses to give you those things, you start to think trust is foolish. But here's the truth. Trust is not the absence of doubt. Trust is deciding to walk forward even with the doubt. Think about climbing a mountain. You don't see the whole path at once. You only see the next few steps in front of you. And yet, step by step, you climb. That's what trusting the process looks like. It's saying, I don't know how this will turn out, but I'll keep moving anyway. I don't see the summit yet, but I'll keep taking the steps in front of me. And yes, it's scary, because trust requires vulnerability. It requires admitting that we don't have all the answers, that we're not in control of every outcome. And that's hard in a world that celebrates certainty and shames uncertainty. But the irony is, the very thing we resist, uncertainty, is often the birthplace of transformation. Let me be clear. Trusting the process doesn't mean everything will work out exactly how you want. Sometimes the relationship doesn't get restored. Sometimes the job you prayed for never comes. Sometimes the dream you clung to shifts into something entirely different. But what trusting the process does mean is that even when things don't go the way you imagined, you will discover strength, wisdom, and resilience you never knew you had. You will come out different, and often better. Brené Brown says, vulnerability is having the courage to show up when you can't control the outcome. That's what trusting life is about. Showing up, choosing to keep walking, allowing yourself to stay open, even when everything in you wants to shut down. Because here's the hard truth. The walls we build to protect ourselves from pain are the same walls that keep out joy, love, and connection. Trust tears down those walls and lets life flow again. And I know this isn't easy. When you've been hurt, when you've lost, when life has knocked you down more times than you can count, trust feels dangerous. You start thinking, what if I let go and things get worse? What if I trust and life betrays me again? These are real fears, and they make sense. But here's another question. What if letting go is the very thing that sets you free? What if trust is not the risk, but the path to healing? Trust doesn't mean you won't hurt again. It doesn't mean life will suddenly become smooth. But it does mean you won't waste your pain. You won't get stuck in the same cycle of bitterness and blame. Instead, you'll begin to turn your wounds into wisdom. You'll begin to see that the cracks in your story are not places of shame. They're places where the light gets in. And here's the lesson. Trusting the process is not a one-time decision. It's a daily choice. Some days you'll wake up and feel strong in that trust. Other days you'll feel yourself slipping back into fear. That's okay. Trust is built in moments, in breaths, in the decision to keep walking when giving up feels easier. So if you're listening to this right now, and you feel like life has left you in the dark, let me remind you, you don't have to see the whole path. You only have to take the next step. That step may be small. It may be as simple as getting out of bed, making the call, or daring to hope again. But every step forward is an act of trust. Every step forward is you saying to life, I may not understand it yet, but I believe this is working for me. And that belief, that fragile but courageous belief, is what will carry you through. If there's one thing I hope you carry with you after hearing these words, it's this: life is not against you. I know it feels that way sometimes. I know there are mornings when getting out of bed feels like carrying the weight of the world, nights when your pillow catches tears no one else sees, seasons when nothing makes sense. But listen closely. Confusion does not mean you're cursed. Struggle does not mean you're failing. Pain does not mean life has turned against you. It means you are still in the middle of becoming. The truth is, life is rarely neat. It's messy. It's full of interruptions, disappointments, and chapters we never would have written for ourselves. But woven through that mess is a kind of wisdom that only reveals itself when we stop fighting and start trusting. Trusting doesn't erase the storm, but it anchors us while we walk through it. Trusting doesn't promise a pain-free life, but it transforms the pain into a teacher instead of a jailer. And here's where courage comes in. Because trusting life requires courage, the courage to stay open when it would be easier to shut down, the courage to keep loving after loss, the courage to rise, even when you're not sure you can stand. Courage is not loud, it's not flashy. Most of the time, courage looks like taking the next small step forward, while whispering, I don't know how, but I'm going to keep going. You may not see it now, but every time you choose trust over fear, you're building something unshakable inside you. Every time you rise from the floor, every time you keep walking with trembling legs, every time you dare to believe that this too is shaping you, you're rewriting the story of your life. You're saying, I am not a victim of life. I am a student of it. Here's the beautiful paradox. The very struggles you wish you could erase are the ones that will give you the wisdom to help someone else. The heartbreak that almost destroyed you might one day be the story that saves another person. The rejection that left you broken might teach you compassion you never would have known otherwise. Nothing is wasted, not even this season you're in right now. But you have to make a choice. You can keep telling yourself the story that life is against you, or you can step into the truth that life is building you. You can let the pain close you off, or you can let it open you. You can let the struggle define you, or you can let it refine you. And I'll be honest, it won't be easy. Choosing courage never is. There will be days when you want to go back to bitterness, when you want to believe the lies again. That's okay. That's human. But every time you remind yourself, this is not punishment, this is preparation, you weaken the grip of fear and strengthen the muscle of trust. So here is my call to you. Don't give up in the middle of your story. Don't quit just because the chapter is hard. Don't let the lies of shame convince you that you are forgotten. Instead, take a breath, square your shoulders, and whisper to yourself, life is for me. Even now. Especially now. Because one day, you will look back on this season and see what you cannot see today. That every broken piece was part of a bigger mosaic. That every unanswered question was leading you to a deeper wisdom. That every tear watered the soil of who you are becoming. And in that moment, you'll realize the secret that was true all along. Life was never against you. It was always, in its own mysterious way, working for you. So keep walking, keep trusting, and above all, keep choosing courage. Because the story isn't over yet.